Welcome to our Wednesday meditation service. The word for today is, divine order is my constant blessing. I remember times of chaos and confusion when I couldn't imagine how things might work out, and yet they did. Divine order was at work then just as it is now. Divine order is my constant blessing. Okay, so let's do the head and neck exercise. We take our head to our chest 3 times. So 1, back up to center, 2, 3. Now take it all the way back 3 times. 1, 2, 3. To the right 3 times. 1, 2, 3. To the left 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then take it around. You go down to your chest, go to the right all the way around. And back up. And now to the left. It's really good to do that before you go into meditation. So we're going to do a chant. And just enjoy and sing. I am in your presence. Cleanse and purify my mind. I am one with all. flow through me. I see only love. Where there is love, there's peace. I can feel your presence. Silently guiding me. I am one with all. I am one with all. Kindness and love flow through me. I feel only love. Where there is love, there's peace. Where there is love, there's peace. I am in your presence. Cleanse and purify my mind. I am one with all. I am one with all. I am one with all. Where there is love, there's peace. Where there is love, there's peace. I am in your presence. I can feel your presence.
Good evening, everyone. There is in the New Testament a situation where the people come out into the wilderness to hear Jesus speak. And he says to them, you came out into the wilderness to hear John the Baptist speak. What did you come out expecting? To see a king in fine raiment? A king with all the material wealth that people in the world seek? Is that what you came out to seek when you came out to seek John in the desert? So, here you are tonight. You left a portion of your ordinary life to be here, and you must be seeking something. And what is you are seeking is you're seeking truth, a truth that will free you from the suffering of the world. I spoke to a friend this afternoon who was having some issues with the Bible. She had, for the last 6 months, decided to really seriously get into reading the Bible. She read the New Testament, and then she's gone back, she's reading the Old Testament. And she's saying, what is it that down through all the centuries, people haven't gotten it yet? We haven't figured out how to live effectively, harmoniously, beautifully. And yet all that biblical teaching and truth is being related in the Bible, but, you know, after this particular episode, the Exodus, and then this, and then that, then they're at war, then they're killing more people, then they're killing everybody over here. On their way to the promised land, they have to kill these people. What is that all about? And then she said, you know, it starts off in the Old Testament, it only has 10 rules. She said, but then if you keep reading it, you see that there are, effectively, there's 615 specific rules that's required of people by God, according to the Old Testament. At least according to the way she's reading it. And I said, actually, there aren't even 10. There are only 2. There are only 2 laws that if one manages to fully embrace them, and they become the priority of his or her awareness, that one will know life without the limited fears and concerns of the world. And the only 2 rules are to love God and This is a beautiful part about it. Listen to this. In this place in the scripture, Jesus said, the first is to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength, with all your soul. And the second one is like it. That's the way it's written. The second one is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So, here we are seeking. We've come out, possibly, not quite into a wilderness, but we've left the world for a period of time to try to hear and grasp what it means to find life truly worth living. Why do we have to go through this? This is part of the question my friend on the phone had. Because the initial first stage of consciousness is one in which we enter a body and we grow taking in the opinions and ideas of the body-oriented people around us. Our parents, our peers, our teachers, they're all body-oriented people. They may have a religion, they may go to church, they may have this or that belief, but for the most part, they're all in this idea of being a separate body, mind, separate body with a brain, which they believe is the mind, and that we are all living in a world of separate other bodies with minds, in a world of separate phenomena. And that's the first stage of life for us. And we grow up developing a personality in accordance to those people around us and the culture in which we live, the country in which we live, the input in which we receive, the experiences we have seeking this particular goal or that particular element in life, and then having to learn from it and grow from it. And we do that. But you see, the object of life is that we choose true life. In other words, it was set up in such a way that we would be born in this physical situation. This is the fall from what was referred to symbolically as the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Delight. That's what it means. Delightful, beautiful, light consciousness, joyful. But mankind fell from that, and he's come into the world because he listened to the tempter, which is symbolized by the serpent, who said, "You'll be like God, knowing good and evil. Eat of that tree in which God said you shall never eat of that tree. And the day you eat of that tree, you'll surely die. Oh, don't worry about it. You won't die. You'll just be like God, knowing good and evil." If you hear what I'm about to say in the next 10 sentences, you could leave here, totally enlightened. Our problem is this duality. The scripture says in the Garden of Eden, well, you can eat of any tree you want. Which means in life, you can have or go for any experiences you want, only don't get in to the illusion of personal judgment, knowing the right and wrong of things, because that leads to all the error in the world. It is the underlying error of all evil in human consciousness. The judgment of knowing the right and wrong of things, and then there comes the necessity for blame and punishment and isolation and banishment and hate and prejudice. So the universe says, Here's life. Don't think of the Garden of Eden of having been someplace else at some other time, just the same way heaven is not someplace else or in some distant place beyond the stars. Because if you think like that, you're still in a state of duality. You're still thinking this, I'm the separate little guy, I'm the separate little self. You know, I'm an objective observer of life. I'm not a bad person, but I can see the right and wrong of things. I know that some people have to be blamed and some things have to be taken care of. I know what has to be done. But you really don't understand. You don't know how to feel good. What you think would make you feel good isn't going to do it for you. No matter how much money you may amass in the illusion of separation and the fear that goes with it, if I get enough money, I can isolate myself from the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, all the terrible things that go on in life. I won't have that happen to me because I'll have enough money, I'll live in my mansion, I'll have my butlers, my maids, my security guards, you know, my pit bulls, my limousines. I'll be safe. I've met people that have all that. They are basket cases. Many of them go to alcoholic treatment centers. They take drugs. They cannot find a way to feel good. And that's the only out of the suffering and the useless suffering of the world. To feel good, though, you have to leave the first stage of life. That stage of life you grew up believing in, being educated in, growing up thinking, going to school, if I make myself smart enough, or if I get the high-paid profession, I'll make my life work. I'll be able to have, you know, the partners I want, and I'll be able to have what I need. But it's not going to happen. Oh, you might have momentary times where you feel like, oh, I made it. I made it. I got this job. It raised all my stock just went through the roof. Whatever. You haven't made it until you feel good. And here's the thing about feeling good. To feel good, regardless of circumstances. What are you talking about? In other words, in the first stage of consciousness, we only feel good when conditions, circumstances are going according to our expectations, our personal desires, our demands. Then people are meeting our opinions and going along with what we want to see happen. But that isn't going to play out to bring goodness, joy, peace, love, truth, and wisdom. It is not. It can't, because it's still the first stage of life, which is generated by fear. The very fact that you see yourself as being separate from everybody else and everything else going on in the world, suppose you amass a lot of money. You'll always have the fear that somebody's trying to steal it from you, take it from you, win it from you. Can you learn the truth of life is to leave the initial first stage of consciousness in which personal judgment is surrendered. Let go of. To move into the ideal awareness, beyond the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the illusion of having yourself as an objective observer of life, which you are not, you can't be. You can't be an objective observer of life, I don't care who you are, because you live by a collection of beliefs that came to you over the period of time that you've been living. These are the things that you actually deeply believe in. But they're not in concert with everybody else's beliefs as you see everybody else is separate. And your expectations and your demands, they're not necessarily going to be the expectations that people want for themselves or you or anyone else. That's why there is always conflict in the world. The only way out of the conflict in the world is to surrender the initial stage of consciousness and the illusion of judgment, blame, and consternation. So here you are. I said 10 sentences. You've heard them. Would you like to join the masters of life? To do that requires a spiritual practice, because breaking free of the initial stage of consciousness is not easy. Most people have a real hard time with it. They are so filled with the idea that they see life the way it is and should be, that they can't get over the fact that they don't. So when they say, I'm a forgiving person, I'm a considerate person, I'm a loving person. But what they really aren't recognizing is that they can't be a considerate person or a loving person if they still make the error they're looking out at real. If you keep looking outside yourself at the conditions and circumstances that you feel are worthy of judgment and blame and condemnation and punishment, you are still in the initial stage of consciousness. You don't know how to feel good regardless of circumstances. The masters of life know how to feel good regardless of what conditions and circumstances are taking place. They have left the initial stage of consciousness, where the whole object of life was to, isolate yourself from the difficulties and the terrors and the problems of the world. That was the initial stage of consciousness. They've left that. How did they leave it? They left it because there are only 2 rules. There's not 10 commandments. There's not 615 other commandments. There are 2. That is to love God, and then Jesus said the second one is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, if you honor that, it means that you cannot be contemplating doing anything to another that you wouldn't have the other do to you. Because that is God. That is the commandment. Those are the only 2 rules in coming into the enlightened state of consciousness, so that you can feel good regardless of circumstances. If you want to feel good regardless of circumstances, you can't let the old illusionary ego-centered self that believes it sees life just the way it is, you can't let it rise within you and say, oh no, but this really deserves some looking into. This is wrong. Somebody has to come up to that. Somebody has to be paying for that. Or these things are wrong in the world, and that has to be taken care of by them because they're wrong. As long as that's coming up within you and you're having negative emotions, and you think that by fulfilling your illusionary idea of being an objective observer is worthwhile, let me say to you, every single time you allow loveless thoughts, loveless actions to rise in your awareness, you have not yet arrived in a state of enlightened consciousness. You can't continue to make error real in your awareness. The only error is the log in your own eye. And that can be removed when you're willing to leave the initial stage of consciousness and start to live as a holy emissary of the presence of God in every person, in every place, in every condition, loving God in that fashion, never even contemplating the idea of bringing fear, anger, prejudice, judgment, condemnation, blame. As soon as that starts to rise within you, you can either fall back into the ego-centered idea that you actually know what's necessary, or you can stop and pause. You can have a holy pause in which you know that in this moment, you can either feel good, sustain peace of mind, and be an emissary of divine light, or you can become a bitter, illusionary, isolated, ego-centered self in a body that's lost. I just said it to you in 10 sentences. That's all the religion there is, by the way. I mean, you can sell the cathedrals. You can take all the money that the Catholic Church has amassed. You can try to find somehow or other how to buy your way through life. And as I said in the beginning, people that have arrived in those places, I mean, sometimes you just have to read the paper. Look at the 6 o'clock news. And you see these movie stars and rock stars. You see people that have all the money seemingly that anyone would ever want. And they're not happy. Some of them are. But that's because they have taken the task, their own awareness there, into meditation, spiritual practice, and they've released themselves from judgment, condemnation, and concern and fear foist on others. They've rid themselves of that. They made a lot of money. That's okay. Doesn't affect them. It doesn't hold them in the illusion. But those that still think that with enough money you can buy yourself out of the problems of the world, they've been disillusioned. They wind up going to drug rehabilitation centers, alcohol centers. Some of them shoot themselves because they don't know how to feel good. To feel good, you have to accept the truth that you're willing to recognize there is only God. And whatsoever you do to anyone else, whatever loveless thoughts you still hold, whatever loveless actions you still think about taking, every time you are involved in that, you are cutting yourself off from feeling good. You're cutting yourself off from healing, peace, truth. But it takes spiritual practice because that first stage of consciousness is one we have believed in, totally given ourselves to. It's an initial stage of consciousness which we have grown up in and been educated in, believing that it's going to be able to win you what it is you need out of life to feel good. But it fails. And you know, the universe understood this. If anybody is truly awake and living, they will discover that life in the initial stage of consciousness is always filled with some kind of conflict, suffering, pain. And when they discover that, they might finally say, I've got to try something different. I've got to try another way. And that takes faith. To say the other way is, listen to it, to release all limited judgments, to release all blame. Not after you get done making it real. You don't even make it real. You look past it. You live only to bless and to bestow peace and to live peace. And when you do that, you start to feel good. You start to feel God. because you're doing the will of God, and you've finally given up eating that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Oh yeah, you'll be like God. You'll know the right and wrong of things. You'll be able to say who's right and who's wrong. Yeah. Don't go ahead. Keep eating that tree. Forget that tree. Get away from that tree. I remember in my early days, back in the ARE, we used to discuss this in our dream circles and our meditation circles. We would have discussions and we'd do meditation or dream interpretation. And I had somebody there who was, I was having one of my moments in the group, and he said, you know, Jack, everybody in this group knows about this whole allegory of eating the tree, eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But I swear to God, you must have eaten the whole goddamn tree. So maybe I'm paying for that now. Anyway, when we feel good, it is because we have entered into the calling to love God, and the others just like it. Love your neighbor as yourself, the way you would love yourself. And that's the golden law, the golden rule. Can you imagine like if one day on planet Earth, everyone decided on that day to live the golden rule, to only do unto another what you would have the other do unto you. Seriously, honestly. There would be such an amazing awareness of love that would sweep the consciousness of humanity. But since that's not going to happen, and it was never set up that way, only you can transcend the illusion of separation. Only you can do it, and not waiting for anybody else to do it, wanting anyone else to do it, making sure anyone else is going to do it. You've dropped all that. You've decided that as for me and my house, my consciousness, I will live in this now moment as an emissary of divine light, bestowing only peace, finding no fault, holding no vengeance, just allowing the peace and joy of knowing God as love to be my goal in every moment, in every place, under all conditions. And as you practice that, eventually it becomes so joyful, so beautiful, so fulfilling. Feeling good is so great that you won't have to spend a lot of time practicing meditation. For a while, when you're starting out and trying to do this, you have to have a daily meditation in which you withdraw from the thinking of the world, in which you take an affirmation or a truth to carry with you into life, because you don't leave the marketplace life. We're not asked to just withdraw into a cave or an ashram. We're simply asked to be mindful of what is truly valuable in every moment, not to surrender it, but in every moment to honor it. And in those moments where you feel this duality rising, you pause. And you have to ask yourself if you want to remain in the world of the illusion-driven people that create suffering for themselves. Or do you want to continue to make peace your goal, truth your goal. And that's all we do. You take that holy pause whenever negative thoughts and negative emotions rise within you. And I'll give you a beautiful way they state it in A Course in Miracles. Let miracles replace all grievances. Let miracles replace all grievances. So if you take a truth like that with you into your living experiences, you're not dropping out, going into an ashram, a monastery, or a cave. You're simply living your life again, wherever you are, but now it is not the ego-centered, illusionary life that you were born, raised, and educated in. It is the life of God. At the core of your being, you're honoring the life of your godness, so that you no longer allow yourself to think and do those things that are not in keeping with that golden rule. For as you do it, listen to this, these words will never go away, by the way. As you do it to the least of these, your brethren, as you hold whatever thoughts you hold and actions you take to the very least of your brethren, you do it unto me, you do it unto God, and that is what you do unto yourself. Suffering, for the most part, is self-imposed, and yet we are so caught in this initial stage of consciousness, we think it's all of life. We hardly can let it go. And I'll show you why it works that way. Because when we're holding a grievance, our adrenaline gets going. That adrenaline rush we get going when we want to take it out on somebody, or we get some punishment, some vindication. That's what we're looking for. I want vindication here. But that's your adrenaline speaking in your guts. And it's locking you out from feeling the joy presence of God. But anyway, you think this is it. I feel good when I'm being vindicated, when I'm getting that done. But you have to pause, because the higher level of joy and peace has nothing to do with getting your personal vindication. It has only to do with, listen to it, the most feared word, the second most feared word in the entire Western culture: surrender. To surrender to the higher, lofty, beautiful presence and will of God. So I don't know who this lady is digging through this barrel.
I'm trying to get a spider out of my instrument.
There's a spider in there.
I don't want to shock you.
Well, he was looking to get, all right, he wanted to get spiritualized.
I know it's coming.
Okay. All right. So here's what we do. We listen to kind of beautiful music. We read beautiful passages. We take a hold of truth. We do this in our spiritual practice every day. We want to live a life of being an emissary of the divine truth. And we don't want to be in the world of conflict and fear, consternation, vindication, and adrenaline. So now we take a couple of deep breaths. You can learn to do this, and you can do this every day. And you can carry the priority of the presence of God with you. Just rest and know that there is no separate judgmental God. Life is reciprocal. What you are putting out is coming back to you in some way. And if you don't like what life is bringing back to you, then you have to change your approach, your thinking. Life is reciprocal. There's no separate God judging. So now, learning to be an emissary of light requires this ideal. Knowing that breathing can be a miracle. Remembering to breathe whenever negative thoughts or feelings arise within you. Remembering to breathe. Breathing can be a mantra, a prayer, when you are experiencing limited circumstances. Breathing in, breathing out. So now, imagine that your body is a complete vacuum. And as you breathe in, you're breathing in the refined, golden presence of God. And it fills your body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. As you release the breath, you release it through the pores of your body. So you breathe in the refined golden light of peace. It fills your body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. And you release the golden breath of life through the pores of your body back into the world. Breathing in the refined golden light of love. It filling your body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Releasing the light through the pores of your body back into the world. Breathing in the refined golden light of life. It filling your body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. You release the golden light of life through the pores of your body back into the world. Just breathing is a miracle. Remembering to breathe when limited thoughts and feelings rise. Breathe your way back into your priority. Breathe your way back into your God consciousness, to the core of your being. Just breathing in the refined golden light of life. Feel it filling your body, your life, and everything around you, everyone else around you, with the light and presence of God. Releasing that light through the pores of your body into the world. Experiencing, feeling good for no apparent reason. Breathing is a miracle. It is a mantra. It is a prayer, a pathway to feeling good in the presence. Just breathing the refined golden truth that there is only God. And to find that truth is to find life and goodness and peace. Breathing in the refined golden light of life. It filling your body, your mind, your awareness with the divine love and peace of the presence of God. Releasing that light into the world. Feeling buoyant, feeling free, feeling beloved, feeling the oneness of the presence. And the voice of truth comes down through the ages. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine so that others may recognize that light and glorify that light within themselves. You are the light of life in the world. Let your light shine so that others may recognize that you are an emissary of light, forgiveness, peace, and love. Now you can use this particular mantra. I am an emissary of divine light, divine peace, and divine love. In that awareness now, we will offer the names of those that have been submitted to our prayer list. As Norma says the name, just let this feeling of light go to that name.
Harvey, Ben, Anili Linhairs, Danielle Engmich, Kate Vince, David DeCallo, the Kell family, Tony and Kyle, Fatima and Forrest, Orion and Jessica, Jesse Jennett, Julie, Jennifer, Verhed Parhengria, Kate Beltrami, Krissa Dougie Reese, Sue and Petra, Graham's Safe Trip, James and Sharon Crothers, Debbie and Larry Woods, Gwen, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Humanity, Case Health, Joel Goodman, Ed Bruder, Clarity, Scott Bellin and Mother, Carol Monette, Carol's dog, Steve Sheets, Ed Sheets and family, Susan King, Mabel Toth, B.B. Sanderson, Daniel Toth, Jenny Anderson, Kelly, Nathan, Liam Henderson, Jim and Dora, Kathy Ray Splan. You can call out a name at this time if you would like to do so. We see that, oh. You see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the people's names that have been submitted throughout the month. We see them healed, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let us take a moment now to recognize this refined level of consciousness rising in the awareness of everyone sharing this Boulder community with us. And this God-conscious presence rising within the awareness of everyone sharing the state of Colorado with us. And it's spreading to everyone sharing these United States of America with us. And it moving to all the nations of the world, all the cultures on every continent. There is coming the awakening to the recognition of the presence of God as a divine awareness that heals and brings harmony and peace. And so it is, as we acknowledge this taking place between the two nations, Russia and Ukraine, peace, harmony being established between those two countries, as we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. Well, do we have any?
What?
Okay. For those of you that are watching this live stream, you can scroll down, and there's an area there in that scrolling that you'll find that says donate. It will give you the ways you can donate to Unity of Boulder. To everyone here, let's bring into our hands that financial gift we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder, and let's bless it with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to that victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen.
I've been told that the garden is now, Joel, you're not going to do it anymore? I'm sorry? Are you not going to do the garden anymore?
My health doesn't.
His health. Your health doesn't permit you to do it anymore?
So we need people to help to weed the garden and to protect the labyrinth that's in there. And Saturday we're doing a church cleanup, but I'm going to be here tomorrow. I will be in the garden helping to do weed and to get it into really good shape. And I'll be sure that our labyrinth is taken care of. And I will have the code to get into the garden with me. I don't know what it is right now, but those people that would like to help with that, that would be fantastic.
What time are you going to be doing that, 11 o'clock?
Well, that sounds like a good time, right?
Yeah. If you are free tomorrow and you want to do some really good service